This is one of them podcasts. When we launched the Ice Team podcast 3 years ago, Drew was there. It was one of his brainchilds, and we started putting together a list of people we wanted to have on the podcast. Pretty sure Target Walleye was like one of the first names we mentioned.
Yes.
I'm being honest.
Yeah, 100%.
Like, who do you want on the podcast? Well, Dave Gentz, Target Walleye, Linders. Like, we started rifling it off, and like, Chris, we corralled Brett McComas,
Yep.
and we have him on an Ice Team podcast. And we're at the St. Paul Ice Show, another episode of the Ice Team podcast. Speaking of which, got my main man Drew across from us. Chris, Brett, thank you so much for joining us. And I say that corral because you two are some of the busiest guys, I think, in the industry. And I mean that with all sincerity. You're always doing something. We've said it so many times. Obviously, we'll get into the weeds on Target Walleye, the epicenter of email newsletters. I don't know how you pull it all together. I don't. But that's what this is going to be about. We're going to talk about some of that. So without further ado, if you're just tuning in, we got the Target Walleye A team here right now.
Man, thank you for having us.
Yeah, really.
Long-time listener, first-time talker.
Awesome.
That's good.
Long-time listener, first-time talker?
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of people say that.
Yeah. Long
But it's
time
good.
listen-
We're
yeah.
happy to have you guys.
Yeah, we're happy to be here.
Thank you so much. So, like I said, we're at the St. Paul Ice Fishing Winter Sports Show. If you hear a lot of noise in the background, that's because we are literally filming this during show hours on Saturday. And we're going to try not to get stampeded by anybody. I think we're in a pretty good spot where we shouldn't. We've had some mishaps at some of the shows. You've been spilled on.
Spilled on, cameras tipped over, cameras gone bad, cameras pulled out.
Yes,
So
it's-
hopefully we get our full video here production for this one. This
Yeah.
will be good.
So I think what we should do before we jump into it, I think we should go a few steps backwards on Chris and Brett. Talk about maybe what got you involved in fishing, how you got involved in the industry, and we'll manifest into what Target Walleye is and what it does, obviously. But I think we should start with that. I mean, who wants to lead us off?
I can lead us off. As far as fishing goes, I grew up Stillwater, Minnesota. I was surrounded by Great Lakes and
Ponies.
the ponies.
The ponies.
And of course the St. Croix River. Now I had a few relatives that had an interest in fishing, but my father and a few uncles, they liked to, but it didn't really go out that much. I had a grandfather who loved to crappie fish, so I spent some time in his old 14-foot Lund and did that. But literally most of my upbringing was me trying to figure out how to strap my gear, my pole, my little tackle box to my bike, and then biking down to the river or some local lake by me and literally fishing from shore. And so I was blessed because the St. Croix River has just about anything and everything swimming in it. And so I, had this love for just about anything that swam. I didn't care what it was, rough fish or whatever. I just loved catching fish.
I feel like if you ever rode a bike with a rod and a little tackle bag like hanging off your thing down to a river, you're going to be a fisherman for life. I always have a soft spot when I see kids do that, anywhere, riding through a neighborhood. I'm like, the river's like 2 miles away. I know where you're going, dude. You're dedicated. You're like 8 years old.
And that was it. And then my mom actually lived over in Hudson, Wisconsin, and we had a lot of really wonderful trout streams and the Willow River and whatnot. So I introduced myself to trout fishing. I had some buddies in school that were really into that, so got myself some waders and some lightweight gear and a little bit of fly, not too much, but I just jumped headfirst into trout fishing, just absolutely loved it. But again, it was all just walking or biking to get there.
Yeah.
And then fast forward a few years, we got a little bit older in high school, and some people had some boats, and now we were running and gunning live on the St. Croix River, camping out on islands and living the dream and doing that. But shortly after high school, I got married and had kids and whatnot. So I always had this aspiration in the back of my mind. I was asked as a young child, what do you want to be when you grow up? And I always said, I want to be a pro baseball player. And and whoever asked me that would, kind of nod their head and say, well, of course you do, Chris. Everybody does. But when that doesn't work out, what do you want to do? And I said, well, if that doesn't work out, then I want to be a pro fisherman like Al Linder. And, coincidentally, here we are, fast forward 30-some years, and I've worked alongside the man, and it's been a blessing. But anyway, it was kind of the whole fishing with the family. The fishing thing really took a back seat. I tried to make as much time as I could. When I turned 30, that birthday, I actually bought myself a boat. And
it's a good birthday gift.
Yeah, and
I just did too. I just turned 30 this past April and bought a boat.
And
high five.
Very nice.
So
it's a true story.
So, but still, I was kind of, strapped for time. I didn't get out as much. I always wanted to fish tournaments, but never really did. And then, a lot of people who know me know my story. Things kind of took a little bit of spiral in my life. I was drinking a little bit more than a guy needs to. Let's just say a lot more. And things started getting away from me. And I ultimately ended up at the Minnesota Adult and Teen Challenge up in Brainerd. And it was kind of funny because I thought I was going to Minneapolis, and my dad's like, why in the world are you looking at Minneapolis? You love to fish. Why aren't you going to Brainerd? And so we switched it up, and I went to Brainerd, and I met Jim Kelkafin, and one of our forefathers in the company, and we became good friends. And I started fishing tournaments, and you know what, man? I'm living the dream. I'm fishing tournaments. I'm fishing all the time. I'm in the industry, and God had a plan for me, and it's just been a blessing living it out.
Chris, I'm going to say one thing. All fishing aside, you were a heck of an athlete. I think you underplayed that side of your life.
That was my passion.
You were very athletic, from what I know.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you mentioned potentially pro baseball. Like, you were a high-level athlete.
Yeah, and coincidentally, I loved baseball, but I was probably never, good enough to go that rough. But I actually played a lot of soccer, and I grew up in the time frame with the Lagos when Minnesota soccer started. It was always, we went head to head with St. Paul Academy in the state championship year after year. Mm-hmm. And so I grew up with those guys, and they all went pro. And then I was in a devastating motorcycle accident the day before graduation of my junior year. Jeez. And I had 23 fractures. And at that point, I kind of decided that, my athletic career is probably over. I might as well become a professional partier and start working. And I kind of, like I said, kind of just went down a road that I probably shouldn't have, in hindsight. So
I just wanted to give credit where credit was due. You were an all-star athlete, I know. So that's awesome, man. Drew, you nailed it too. Like the river side of things. Like, you're probably going to mention a river, I'm sure, at some point too, Brett. Like we all went to a river when we were a kid to fish. Mm-hmm. And it's how many people we had on the show where there's commonality there. We're like, I was a kid, grabbed my rod, hopped on the bike, went to the river.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. How many fishing memories do you think? Looking in this room right now, there's probably a couple thousand people in here. I don't know. How many people would probably say, "Oh yeah, I grew up. I was fishing in the river."
Oh yeah.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
I was Platte River.
Yeah.
That's what got me hooked up in Royalton, Minnesota. The same thing. Classic story of riding the bike down the Platte and catching creek chubs and doing it every single day. And
where do you catch them creek chubs right now?
Right down there, Royal Oaks, Royal Oaks Road.
Royal Oaks.
I don't think it's public land anymore, but I remember one time I caught a smallmouth after 3 years of just catching minnows, and I put it in a bucket and biked 2 miles to go show my parents and then go back and let it go. But yeah, same exact story as you guys, hooked instantly, biking every day down to the river, and there's not many lakes in Royalton.
Yeah. So
we would occasionally come up to the Brainerd area, and I was fortunate enough to have my dad, Bruce Almighty, get me hooked on fishing and throwing slip bobbers and leeches for bass. And
Did you say you went 3 years with catching minnows before you caught a smallmouth bass?
Out of that spot on the Platte, yes. And then I finally found out, nobody told me to go fish, somewhere where it's deeper than a foot.
Oh my
So there was
God.
like 1 4-foot hole that I was maybe a quarter mile away from growing up. And once I went down to that hole, catch a pike, catch a walleye, catch a smallmouth, and it's like, I didn't know that. I thought it was just all ankle
I've
deep.
expanded my universe.
So Brett
This is amazing.
Brett was trying out for Team USA ice fishing and didn't even know it for 3 years trying to catch a minnow.
Right.
Seriously. And
Oh my God.
how many of those things I threw back, and now that I know how much they cost,
That's why I asked you, where is this at?
Gens probably knows about it.
So Royalton, do you still have ties to Royalton?
Nope.
I have a really close friend that lives there and has for a while. So, and I know it's a very, very small community.
It is.
So
It is.
I was just curious.
I guess I was back in kind of that area of Bolus for a benefit a couple months back, but
Sure.
It was cool to see it again because I really haven't visited Oilton since 4th grade, and everything looked a lot bigger when you were little. But I had to go look at the river again and see, and man, I remember it being a lot bigger. You can definitely cast across the Platte.
What was it bigger, or is it just looked big for you?
It looked big.
Same size that it is now.
Yeah, when you're a young kid.
Yeah, it's
Everything.
a creek.
Yeah.
I remember thinking I couldn't cast a silver minnow across the thing, and
Silver minnow.
now I think you could just flip a bass jig.
Yep.
Yeah. Will a walleye eat a Ned rig on that river?
Oh yeah, fish the holes. Every walleye in that stretch is probably in the 2 4 to 5 foot holes right now.
So when I first met you, it was well after the Royalton era.
Yeah.
You had already relocated to Brainerd area, right?
Yep.
And I guess take it away from there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Kinda,
Actually, I've known you for as
been a
long
long
as
time.
anybody in this building
been
from
a
the
long
HSM
time, dude.
Outdoors days.
Yeah.
And that was just a group of us who were fish nerds, obsessed, and all wanted to just travel around and catch fish and try new things and share techniques with other people. And I forgot about that.
I know.
You know?
It's
That's
crazy.
a long time ago.
Yeah.
And
Pre-social media.
yeah.
To some degree.
Some of that was the fishing forums.
Forum-based stuff. Yeah.
And right when Facebook came out.
Yeah.
And, Clam, you guys were the first ones to give us any shot.
Yeah.
Anything, and forever grateful.
Chad
for
Peterson.
that. Yes, sir.
I know Chad well. Rich Lemmer.
Yeah, I saw
Who
him,
is
actually.
Rich was a
Yeah.
part of this Hookset Media company that Brett was with Chad Peterson, and now Rich is on our pro staff. Does a phenomenal job.
Yeah.
I remember those days too. That was pretty cool.
Crazy.
I was a major
With flies.
forum creeper back in my day. I know I was never very active, but I was like, okay, Lake State fishing, hotspot outdoors,
State
all that
fishing,
stuff, in-depth outdoors forum. I was always just creeping,
Yeah.
way back. It's kind of
James Holst I saw him. He's running around here someplace too, in-depth outdoors, and that was a fishing forum back during those times too. It's crazy. Yeah.
Now we're just doing the same stuff on Facebook
Yeah.
Right.
Pretty much.
and
It's just
podcasts and YouTube.
a more convenient platform.
Yes.
Yeah.
Forums
Definitely.
became barbaric to use on a mobile
Yeah.
device,
Yeah.
and that's what killed them all.
Right.
Yeah.
But man, at that time, those were gold. I
Yeah.
mean, to find out what's working and where people are catching fish, and unbelievable.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right, so you're in Brainerd, young kid. What next?
Yeah, man, I just did everything I could to try to work in the fishing industry, and I thought it would never happen. I actually, while I was working at a bank and just doing, the social media posts on the side and fishing every waking minute, I graduated out of college, actually, and I forgot about this, but I wrote a cover letter and a resume and sent it to Linder Media saying that I would be their janitor, I would sweep floors, I would scrub toilets for free just to be in the office. And they actually wrote me a letter back and said, really appreciate it. We don't have any openings right now. Thank you. And, just a nice letter back. And then 10 years later, whatever, I have an office in there, which is the craziest thing ever. I tried to bust out my old laptop from back in the day and see if I could find that.
Do they have you cleaning the bathrooms right now and everything?
No,
No, okay.
not usually.
Good.
I did restock some toilet paper the other day in there, though.
I think Nick is still cleaning the bathrooms.
Yeah, they didn't take a rain check and say, "Hey, Brett, remember 10 years ago?
Yeah.
I still have this letter you sent.
You said you'd do it for free.
We need to collect on this now."
Oh man, yeah. I just it's crazy how things happen, but yeah, doing the whole social media thing, and they were starting Target Walleye, and Jay Kumar, Al Linder, and Ron Linder were just starting it. It was brand new, and they, while looking for walleye content on Instagram, came across some pictures of mine from Lake Winnipeg. And so I got featured in like one of the first couple Target Walleye emails, and then they kept coming across my profile while trying to find content to write about, and sent me a DM and were like, "You want to talk?" And just started helping submit some content for Jay to put together and write. And it started with 5 hours a week, and then 10, and then 20, and 40, and eventually something had to give.
Yep.
Now it's 120 hours a week.
Yeah. I love the saying of, in the fishing industry, you work 100 hours to avoid working 40.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
you know,
That's true.
just can't shut it off.
I'll tell you what, man. Like, and we've said this in our camp at Clam, and I know I've heard it from other people. Like, how you manage and orchestrate and manipulate in all kinds of positive ways the industry we call social media is crazy. Because I first remember you. Obviously, we've talked about it, but you were so ahead of your times on Instagram. Like, you were like a literally resource on Instagram. And I remember anyone that Brett McComas, and I remember being like, this Instagram thing's driving me crazy. And Brett's like cracked the code because there was Boomer,
Yeah.
Stelmach,
Yep.
that was the Facebook guru, right? And then you came on the scene as like the Instagram end all be all, and I'm not surprised one bit it took you down a path of social media hierarchy, which led us to what you guys do now. I mean, talk about Target Walleye. If our listeners don't know what Target Walleye is, climb out from under that rock. But maybe you want to jump into Target Walleye, how it came to fruition. We know how you got involved, but maybe give our listeners a little backstory on everything Target Walleye. I think there's a huge story there. I think watching it just evolve over, I don't know, how many years has it been?
I think we're at 10.
Yeah.
I gotta check, but
you guys set the bar.
decade.
You guys set the bar.
Well, and the whole thing was the bass side of the world has got so saturated with content, with different this, different that. It's overwhelming, and the walleye world had nothing forever.
Yeah.
I mean, where do you go? This 10 years ago, you couldn't go anywhere to find out what was new on the walleye side of things, and I mean, I wasn't the guy who started it, but I think Ron Linder approached Jay Kumar and was like, we got to do this Bass Blaster thing. We got to do this on the walleye side. And yeah, so essentially, long story short, Target Walleye is, I kind of describe it as like a sports center of walleye and ice fishing, of the top things that happen that week, new things, exciting things, timely, relevant things. Mm-hmm. But it's one place that you can go and kind of get a snapshot of everything that happened over those last couple days in one quick read, and we keep it fun and light, which I think is kind of unique. And
it's real.
There's tons of the old school style of content out there, which is good. It's got a time and a place, but I want people to get a laugh and chuckle and have a little fun, keep it light, but also learn at the same time.
Yeah, it's very entertaining. It's educational and entertaining, and I think that comes back to your ability to navigate the social media world. Like, what is social media, right? Like, it's all about providing value, education, entertainment, and giving people information that they think they need, right? And you've done that with Target Walleye. I'm not a walleye angler. I'm not a good one, right? Drew and I have talked about this. Like, I've become a decent walleye angler the last few years because we got some pretty amazing tools at our fingertips. But I've learned so much from Target Walleye because I think what you do is you feed your audience the things they need to know, plus a whole bunch of funny stuff where you kind of get you engaged. So you capitalize on that listener, that reader that might not fish even a whole lot, but they like it, right?
Yeah.
But they're entertained. And then you also tap into that real hardcore, we're going to get down and dirty with Jason Mitchell on how to catch inside weed line walleyes using, and that listener or reader goes, that's for me too.
Yep.
So
I think you guys get harness the trust too of whoever's reading it. Like, I've been a fan for a decade, and I have never lost interest, and keeping it light also is like, I can just sit and it's like you're telling me, right? It's not a commercial. It's not someone trying to, push product at me. You're just like, you should just try a Ned rig.
Yeah.
I'm like, sweet. Yeah. I don't know why I would need it.
Yeah.
Right? Well, the number one thing is the relationship with the customers, the readers, the fans, you jeopardize that by taking a money grab and pushing something that's junk or blatant just, I mean, that relationship is priority number one, and keeping it real.
You know what I think is so cool about that, to back it up, is how much the Linders have impacted everything. There's like two Well, I think of Dave Gens a lot for ice fishing for obvious reasons. Then for everything
he's
else,
right there.
I know he's right there,
Sorry to cut
sitting
you.
on a snowmobile. And then I'm like, the Linders.
Right there. Yeah.
It's just wild in the bass and walleye world.
It's amazing.
I know, like we would not be here without Dave Gens and the entire Linder family. It's
No,
wild.
Not at all.
What did you literally say in our little break room like a half an hour ago about Al Linder? What was reference? And you're like,
Oh.
I'd jump off a bridge if Al Linder said, you should jump off that bridge. And I said, I'd be holding onto your ankle.
Yeah, someone said something. I'm like, if Al told me to jump off a bridge, I'd say, well, which one?
Cavallas was talking about losing your voice.
Yes. So Cavallas was losing his voice at sports shows, right? And he's drinking lemon water. He had half lemon,
Juice
half
and-
lemon juice and half water. He's like, yeah, this is a trick that Al Linder told me 20 years ago. You just mix this stuff up, you drink it, and you get your voice back. I'm like, really? I'm like, that doesn't surprise me. Everything Al says is probably true.
The guy's good at everything.
Yeah.
I know, it's wild.
And I was thinking, like, if my voice is going, I don't think I'm going to squirt lemon juice down it. And Drew's like, well, if Al said we should do it, we should. I mean, I'd jump off a bridge if Al did. And I'm thinking,
Yeah,
like, well, I'd be
whatever.
holding on to Drew's ankle if that was the case.
Yes.
But you mentioned Jim Calcafan. And when I first was introduced to Target Walleye, I think the first person I met with was Jim at an ICAST show years ago. So he was there at the beginning stages. I mean, Jim
was
is
an
a
original owner.
legend in his own world. Like, I don't know if our listeners even know who Jim Calcafan is as much as they probably should.
Hall of Famer.
I mean,
Hall
the
of
guy's
Famer.
a stud.
And to get a little backstory on that, because like I said, I've known Jim for a long time.
Yeah.
He's a dear friend of mine, and he's the one who brought me in. His story of the conception of Target Walleye was Ron approached him with this idea of how are we going to get some eyes on this walleye thing. Since we got out of the in-fishermen and the PWT folded, everything just started going downhill,
Yes.
and we got to start building this back up. How can we do it? We know that the print thing is not where we're going to go. We don't want to do that. Everything's going to this mobile media telephone thing. What can we do? And they start brainstorming, and Kumar popped up because he had been doing the Bass Blaster and other avenues for quite some time. So they thought, why don't we call him and do some consulting, get some ideas? And so that's how they reached out to Kumar, and they started talking, and he bought into the, this is a great idea, let's go. And of course Al was there for the whole thing, and so that's how the idea came. And then grassroots, and JK knows everybody, and then their friends too. And my
does.
first ICAST walking around with him trying to keep a schedule was impossible because he knows 16 stories from every single person he walks by, and he's a storyteller. But he would go to shows, all of them, and he would just camp out, and he just started literally handing out flyers and this and that. Hey, sign up. And we didn't even have QR codes then. So he's like sitting there typing in names or writing down and then having somebody else copy him in. So that's how the whole list started of subscribers. And he's just, coming here at an event like this and asking people to join. Hey, we got this idea. And it really helps get traction when you got Al and Ron Linder behind it. Why wouldn't you want some free information from those guys? So that really helps a lot. But JK, when you talk about list of guys that you just don't know like you should, that kind of are behind the scenes. I mean, JK was the director of the Pro Walleye Tour for 20 plus years, and was one of the main guys at Mercury and plenty of other places. The guy is in the Hall of Fame. He's an absolute legend, and he's retired, but he still writes for a whole conglomerate of different magazines and newspapers and whatnot. But very talented guy, has knowledge like you'd never see. I mean, about everything, and wonderful man.
The thing I've seen here, and we're going to sound like we're just tooting your guys' horns, but I'm being factual. Everyone that seems to be tied with Target Walleye, there's so much, there's zero ego. There's so much integrity. Like, you think about Calcafan, the Linders, both of you, like everyone I've met with Target Walleye, I think one of your strongest strengths, and Drew kind of nailed it, about trust, right? You have to have trust. Well, I mean, look at the people behind the brand.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like, it doesn't take you 2 minutes to sit down with Jim and go, this guy's awesome. This guy, and this guy has more information than that pinky. Like, him and I were talking, I think, Montana walleyes. At like an ICAST show, and I don't know if Montana had a walleye.
They have walleyes.
And he's just like diving into the weeds with me at lunch at a table at ICAST multiple years ago, and I'm just like, I left that lunch going, I could guide walleyes in Montana right now. Like this guy, and he's talking about, and just so genuine. It's pretty cool. I figured it warranted, because I just remember when I was brought into the fold at Target Walleye Conversations, Jim was very prevalent.
Yeah.
And I think you, Brett, you were kind of the part-timer, and he's like, I got this guy. You may have heard about him. He's a wizard. And I'm like, yeah, who's that? Brett McComas. I'm like, yeah, dude, the guy's gold, you know? And I remember you were kind of like figuring out what you were going to do. I think you were doing some guiding.
A little bit.
You were doing some guiding up in Brainerd. You were doing some of this. You were writing, and it's so cool to see that the pieces kind of all got put into play, and it's been super, super cool to watch. So hopefully Jim's listening. He may or may not be, not sure. But, dude, super cool guy.
He texted me yesterday with a picture of a rainbow trout out on the ice.
Yeah.
Look at that.
Yeah, I get those all the time. He's retired, and he is loving life. I'm so happy for him. I mean, if he's not fishing, he's hunting, he's foraging flowers or whatever.
Chasing elk, chasing grandkids,
seriously,
chasing rainbows.
Yeah,
That's a good life.
he's going good.
That's a good life. So Jay Kumar, like Bass Blaster, like legendary, like kind of set the stage for fishing email blasts in so many ways. So it's pretty cool to see all that come to fruition. And I mean, if you're a bass angler and you don't know Bass Blaster, same thing as, hey, if you don't know what Target Walleye is and you're watching this Ice Team podcast, like similar concept. I mean, that's where a lot of people get their information from, and a lot of stuff shared.
Absolutely.
So the thing with Target Walleye too is it's evolving, and you mentioned the digital world, right? And it's so important. Obviously, your claim to fame is a newsletter, right? It comes out all the time. I think it's edgy. It's funny. I laugh with you and I laugh at you, Brett. I'm sorry, and I mean that with all sincerity. But you're doing more than that now. And Chris, you're heavy on the sales side.
Yeah.
I mean, let me see your knuckles quick. Okay, you've knocked on so many doors. I wonder if you had anything left. But there's a lot more going on with Target Walleye, and I don't know if you want to continue to touch on Target Walleye and what's coming down the pipeline and things going on, and you got so many partnerships you're working on, and I see you literally everywhere.
Yeah, well, and I think that was, one of the things I noticed right away is that, we needed to get in front of more people and have a more of a relationship with people. Brett, God bless him for what he does, because I don't want his job at all.
I don't know how you get
But,
it. Yeah.
I mean, to do what he does, I mean, it is a huge, huge time suck, and he just doesn't have the time to maintain and create and nurture those relationships, and somebody did. And Jim had, if not a foot and a half in the water of the retirement waters at all times. So I just immediately saw, hey, that's the world I come from. I'm a people person. I like to create and cultivate, relationships, and then build those on trust and credibility. That's been my, I've got a long history of sales, but it's always been about trust and credibility, because if you sell somebody a pile of junk, it's going to come back, and nobody's getting paid at the end of the day anyway. So, my faith and my background is all about, integrity and just, being real with people. And it was a perfect marriage with Brett, because he's about the most real person I know, and, transparency and just letting people make their own decision. We're not out there to stand on a soapbox and preach and tell you what you need to have. We're just going to put stuff in front of people, as much as we can from all of the different, entities, and let people make the decision, you know?
So, Brett, on the email, are you literally scouring social media all day looking for these tidbits to add? I mean, you're adding like Lake Erie regulations drop from this to this, and this. I'm like, how do you even have time to look up the Ohio regulations, man?
24/7.
Like, how do you you're literally doing it all
everywhere.
That is wild,
smoke
man.
Coming out of my computer with 57 tabs open and just constantly combing through.
Are you getting help?
It's never ending.
Do you get help at all with that? Because I would be completely overwhelmed.
For a long time, no. We got a couple people who are just starting to help out, actually this last week, to help gather content, because just feeding the beast, you can
It's
never
so
have
much.
enough.
Yeah.
And right now we do 2 emails a week, so you look everywhere, scour every inch of the internet you can, and then how do you do that
Condense
2
it.
days later and find something new? So trying to get a couple of other sets of eyes to help, and that would help free up some more time to do more video stuff, which is one of the things that these last few years we've been really trying to ramp up and put out more YouTube videos and shorts and reels, and that's definitely one thing, like you were mentioning, Matt, that we are
very entertaining,
ramping up.
Yeah.
And try to keep it light too, and same thing, learn at the same time, and do a nice mix of humor, but also I want to learn something that's going to help me catch a walleye on this lake in my backyard that I didn't know they were in.
I mean, I think from a communication perspective, using email blast, you guys set the bar. I mean,
100%.
like Drew said, like the amount of information that's on there, I read these every time, and if I don't have time to read them, I make sure they're listed as unread in my email so I don't forget to read them. And every time I'm like, how in the HELL did he find this information? I mean, I just read an email blast 3 days ago from Target Walleye, and now there's more. And kudos, man. And talking to Chris, and you being everywhere, I just have to thank you, because I'm pretty sure there's been a few of my seminars that you're the only guy in the audience. So I appreciate. I love you, man. Sometimes I'm like, great. I got Chris. I got Chris listening to me speak.
Something from my seminar might make it on Target Walleye.
So from the bottom of my heart, thank you.
My
Sometimes
pleasure,
being
man.
my only fan at some of these seminars. So, well, I think Target Walleye, if you have not checked it out, you need to. If you haven't subscribed, shame on you. We have no personal gain, Drew and I, to pimp Target Walleye. This is real. Like what we said is real. It's packed with information. You learn so much. It's awesome. You got to check it out. We should definitely talk about the show.
Yes.
What's new? What's going on? You two, I think, you've walked the show a decent amount.
A little bit.
Like what do you see in here? Before we jump into that, I've heard this said multiple times in the last day or two, and I believe it. The energy at this show is so different this year.
Oh my gosh.
Than last year. So different, and it's because we have ice. It's happening. People are excited. You can feel it. Not just the consumers, but the vendors, your friends, the people you see. Everyone's just buzzing. But so, what have you seen walking the show? Maybe let's touch on some product stuff. Like, what are you seeing that's like that's cool?
Number one
what's
new product
Yeah,
you
what are
guys
seeing?
want to walk away with today?
And
You had to pick one.
First, I just have to say, I was going to say the exact same thing. All the new products and everything is incredible, but that was the number one thing I wanted to say is the buzz around here.
Yes.
After 2 crap years of ice, record snowfall one year, record least amount of ice the next year.
Record lengthy summer.
Yeah, and then to have these lakes locking up in 4-6 inches, and the buzz in here is just, it's special.
Yes.
I feel giddy looking around. People are buying stuff, they're pumped, they're ready, and it's going to be an amazing year. But we can get back to products
I
now.
agree.
But
I
I'm
felt
excited.
that way leaving the Dakota Angler Show. I mean, I was like, man, look
People
at
are
these
ready.
lines. I mean,
Yeah.
I had to stand in line to get checked out for about 15 minutes, and they had multiple lines going, and it didn't matter which one I went to. So I was immediately like, I'm so glad to get through all of this political stuff, and
Yes.
people just start to make some decisions again, and just be optimistic, and hey, the weather's cooperating too. So all these things are pointing to just some fantastic things for the industry. And like I said, a lot of people here. I had somebody comment to me. I didn't see it because I was already in the show, but he said that he came here at about, I think it was 10:15, and the line was, they have that weaving little whatever you call it, like the movie theater to get in there.
Yep.
And it was all the way full and went all the way down the hall and out the door over across to the park. And he's like, I'm not going to stand in that line. So he walked down to the bar down the street and had a Bloody Mary
Oh my God.
and waited it out. So, I mean,
Have you seen
that's
that?
great.
Have you seen that guy yet?
I did. I did see
Did
him.
he
still
make
coming.
It,
He'll
did he
make it
make it back into the show?
Yeah, well, I saw him after.
We still have
after he
one
got
more
back.
day for the show.
But I don't know. I was actually, I guess I'll just throw it out there. I was really into a Markham HD camera, that little 5-inch HD camera, loving it. I think one thing, I think Brett would agree, we want to add more of is like live footage and
Sure.
some B-roll shots into our video just to kind of get that. We don't
Talking
have,
the underwater
yeah,
footage?
underwater
Yeah.
actual footage,
Yeah.
and and so that kind of thing is really exciting me, and talk to them and the capabilities and what it can do, and so I love the portability and the ease of use and the flexibility of plugging it into a big TV in a Glacier ice house. That was one thing that has really jumped. And not like it's new technology or anything, but they keep raising the bar on that stuff every year, and it's just really a cool piece.
Sure.
Yeah.
I'm like 50-50 on a couple different things. The whole ice camping thing, I can't get enough of walking through the hubs and looking at different clam lock accessories and just ways to... Ice camping last year was the most fun I have had ice fishing in years. And I was forced to do it because you couldn't get the wheelhouse out. And I wanted to stay out there. And once I did it...
I thought you just wanted to be one with the burbot.
Yeah, we'll see that too. One with the burbot and sleeping with the sweet hum of the heater. And
Yes.
it was so magical, and now I cannot get enough of it. So I love walking through these houses that are set up and seeing the cots and the layouts and tweaking and like companies having stuff designed for that. I cannot get enough of it. I mean, you look at guys setting them up in their garage and doing mock runs for their trips and stuff. So I've been just trying to weasel around and look at that type of stuff. But then bait-wise, I'm a bait junkie, and seeing new colors, new profiles, new forms of movement on baits, whether it's a little kicker blade, marabou, feathers, I just can't get enough of that stuff. And like with you guys coming out with plastics that are actually, it's not just white, it's not just chartreuse, it's not just purple, like
laminates and stuff.
Seeing laminates and morning dawns and sour grapes and like different tones and
Spoken like a true bass head.
I love that.
Well,
man.
on that,
I love that.
A green pumpkin. Green pumpkin.
well, along that lines, I am actually itching to get my friend Mr. Wonderbread Psycho Shad out, because you guys
Go to Winnipeg.
Oh man,
Trust me.
I'm just I'm loving the line, the colors on that. It's just a great looking jig, and I know you guys have did some new things with it, so I'm excited to try that one. That's one of the baits that have really excited me as
Those
well.
koi patterns.
Psycho
are sexy.
Shad.
Yeah, the koi
I
pattern.
love that.
I was talking to Tony Roach this morning. And anyone that knows Tony, he's probably one of the most aggressive ice fishing guides I think that the world's ever seen. I don't know if anyone cuts more holes. It might be a little better now with forward face. But Tony, it's a sweat equity business for that guy. He is a phenomenal ice fishing guide. And you're talking sleeping, right? And what we're talking this morning, and he's just like, I'm like super excited for this winter. I'm like, yeah, me too, man. Like, we got ice. What's Mille Lacs look like? And we're just having small talk. And he goes, you know what I'm really excited about? Spending more time sleeping and camping on the ice. And I had to like look at him like,
Mr. Ice
Tony
Trolling.
wrote, like, what? He goes, it is so fun. And he's like, I did it a bunch last year. I honestly, I'm really excited for that again. And I'm like, it's everyone finds love and value in that ice camping thing.
It's like, remember last year you said the most fun you had all year was when we went and fished at night with a fish trap. We didn't camp all night, but we just actually flipped over a bunch of houses actually, and we just sat and caught a bunch of crappies and had a blast.
It was so fun.
People get so caught up in going, running and gunning, big wheelhouses, big operations, gotta catch fish as fast as I can. Like, no, just kick back. It's the weekend. It's a Saturday. It's like going to cut down a tree for firewood and coming back to your campfire. You're like, this is it. Like, we're just chilling here. Like, this is what ice fishing's about, you know? It's more than just catching fish.
You're so right. We had the marketing team up with Drew. He had put us on a bite, and you had grown adults just giggling and laughing.
Oh, my
We had
God.
like 3-4 fish traps in a little area. The crappies they were moving a little bit, but not so much. Everyone, and you could tell like when they went underneath somebody's trap, because they're laughing.
Rods are like getting pulled in the water. Like, it was
We're
awesome.
having,
That's what it's
heaters
all
going,
about.
lights in the fish house. And I remember we were all heading back that night. And I'm like, because when I was younger, when I got into
We
ice
had to
fishing
leave-
with my dad, that's what we did. We went after school. I don't do that at all anymore.
Yeah, no one
That
wanted
was
to
so
leave.
fun. No,
We were having so much fun.
no, it was very tempting to go. Drew,
can stay out here till
can we
3
just
o'clock."
can we just stay? But you're not wrong. Like that is.
Yeah. Don't
that is
forget
fun.
to just take it all in when you're ice fishing, you know.
for sure.
Set the hub house up, you know, go camping, whatever, fish at night. Like, it's fun.
Yeah. Some
magical,
things
man.
I saw, I've gone from our booth to the kids zone, the seminar area. One thing I've noticed, I feel like there's an influx this year, is like modifying things.
Yeah.
And not just clam lock and things like that, but I'm seeing a lot more like cargo boxes for UTVs and ATVs and racking systems. Like, I feel like that's been a hot button this year at the shows. is tricking out stuff that you've done. A lot of the machines.
Well, it goes back to my story about trying to figure out how to strap everything to my bike and get to the river, you know?
Yeah.
And now we got the same dilemma with our sleds and our UTVs and whatnot. So, you know.
Ice fishermen are tinkerers. We always have been. And it doesn't matter if it's a spoon and you're adding a kicker blade or adding an extra swivel on there for more movement.
Right.
Or it's, sorry about that. Or it's your snowmobile and you're trying to figure
Mike
out
Roger
how to
was
haul
here
it,
right
but-
now. Holy smokes.
Yeah.
Last night, Mike was talking about making decoys that draw in crappies and like how he can like paint metal. And he wanted a high definition picture of a crappie. And I'm like, dude, you're one level beyond what I'm thinking, man. Like, I'm just going to go drill a hole on top of them.
I think that's half the fun of ice fishing, though, is just messing with the gear in the garage. And you know, does it help you catch more fish? Sometimes.
Yeah.
But it's just so fun to
Prepare and
To
think
prepare.
and get a game
It
plan.
definitely allows you to have more fun. Did you see that video Sobe just put out?
Yes.
Sobe just did a video in his garage, and anyone knows Sobe, like he will forever be a 10-year-old kid trapped in whatever age body he is. And Sobe, if you're listening, please don't ever change. Like, don't ever change. Like,
Right.
You're such a genuine person. But like, I watched like that entire video of him tricking out like a sled to be pulled around with this forward-facing sonar, and he's in his garage, and you can put yourself in his shoes as he's like, I could put this here, and I could do, and he's filing off the side of a sled with a tack saw, and I'm just like, this dude is every single ice angler vicariously in one human being in his garage right this second.
Exactly.
And but to your point, like that's what we all love to do. Is just make everything your own. If you go into everyone's fish trap, everyone's hub, everyone does something different. You know, Mike Roger, you mentioned Mike. He broke one of our scoop shovels a few years ago trying to wedge out his four-wheeler. Broke it right off. And he's like mad. And then he literally takes that handle and goes, He goes home and he attaches it to the back of his Vexlar. So he no longer has to bend over to pick up his Vexlar.
And he had a bad knee or bad back.
Yeah.
Sure. It made perfect sense.
That is
phenomenal sense. And I'm like, that's the
Market that
stuff
thing.
that you go, whoa. Like,
Yeah.
you know, but ice fishermen, ice anglers, like, we're dorks.
Seriously.
Yeah.
You got to be a little
I'm
bit
sorry.
crazy
Yeah.
to do
Like-
what we do.
We are, and they say musky anglers and ice anglers, like both of them are a little screwed up in the head. Yeah, I would agree.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm in that category, right?
Yep.
Like we're a little mental. So
Wouldn't have it any other way, though.
no. Now you're looking like a John Paul Tessier, right?
Oh, yeah.
Who's a
my God.
hardcore musky guy and a hardcore ice angler. Like that guy living in Lake of the Woods every day.
Yeah, he's something else.
Oh my, what
Whole
a
other level.
national treasure. Like
he is
in a good
great.
way. So this show, buzzing, we're excited. You're saying new tackle items. You're talking camping. You're talking baits. I mean, I didn't get a chance. What's else is new in the electronics world? Like, does Garmin has a GP or a forward-facing sonar now
Yep.
without an arm?
Yeah, they do.
And
It's,
I think Gens is running it.
Yeah.
Have you
Sure.
played with that?
I haven't on the ice,
Okay.
but I've played with it a little bit, just looking at it, talking with the Garmin guys, and yeah, no pole. It's the Panoptics, not the live scope,
Sure.
but it's lighter. There's no pole to mess around with, and it's more so geared for the guy hopping around chasing crappies, hole to hole, and still be able to do down view, forward view.
Yeah.
And cool idea for run and gun. And one of the things that's interesting with the no pole, designing a sled setup or a wheeler setup or whatever, you have to base everything around how you're going to fit a live unit.
Yes.
It is crazy because you got this big pole, this big unit that's fragile. How you literally have to design everything around that first, figure that out. And so it's pretty cool to see a unit that's poleless.
Yeah.
But I think for those like run and gun and crappie fishermen, bluegills, I think it could be a cool unit.
Yeah, I'm looking at
And-
Dave Gens.
Of course, he's
is-
the first one with it, too, on his
he's
sled. Like,
seven
he's always one
yards
step
away
ahead.
from us, and he's got that. So I'm excited to see. Dave will be fishing next week, so we'll get an actual report on how he likes that probably in the next 7 to 10 days.
Well, and a little perfect segue here, and a little, I guess, hot drop is, I'm guessing here pretty soon, people are going to have the opportunity to win one of those. We got one coming up
geez.
in a Target
Yep.
Walleye giveaway. So,
I honestly didn't even know that.
oh yeah.
How do I do that?
Well, you just fill out the little entry form, and you're instantly, and maybe share it with some friends and get some more entries. And
Cool.
And they just go to, where do they go to do that?
I'll launch it in the next email. I was gonna publish it this morning, but I had a podcast to get to.
Okay.
And we are giving away one of those bad boys here in the next Target Walleye email.
So I'm guessing that'll launch before this goes live.
Sure.
So if you're listening to this, how long is this going to go?
Typically 2 weeks.
Okay, so it'll be active.
We'll be.
So when you're listening to this right now, that contest that Brett and Chris talked about, it's live right now. If you're listening to this, because if you're going to launch it tomorrow, then when this airs next week, it'll be live.
And since we're talking about contests and cool things, and to keep watching, I believe it'll probably be right after that, thereabouts. Tuned Up Custom Rods came out with a brand new custom commander called the Target Walleye Edition that Brett kind of had a lot of input on, and the thing just blew off the shelf. They couldn't keep. I didn't even get one. They couldn't keep one in stock. Yeah, and
big time over here.
Wow.
Just a beautiful, sexy rod. And anyway, they couldn't keep it in stock, and if you went to their website, notify me now, and it's just they couldn't do anything with it. Well, they got them back in stock. They actually have them. They brought them, and they were trying to give them to me, but I'm like, I ain't mailing these things. Bring them back with you, and I'll send you the information.
Is this an open water rod, ice rod?
Ice rod.
Ice rods, Tuned Up Custom rod, 38-inch commander.
Walleye rod.
Cool.
Tons of power. It's got sexy gold recoil guides and a
Sure it
carbon
does.
fiber handle, and I've always been a sucker for beefier rods. I like fishing big baits, aggressive, cracking them, so it's right up my
Everything
alley,
you touch is gold, so I'm not surprised that's got gold eyelets on it.
it's cool.
My gosh. You're going to fish a gold Psycho Shad with it?
Yeah, why not? You can't go wrong with it.
Yeah.
You can't go wrong. Actually, it
that's
would be
cool.
a perfect rod for Psycho Shads.
That's really, really cool. I mean, I'm going to try to walk the show a little bit tomorrow. I haven't seen a lot. I feel like when I walk the show right now, I end up talking and not looking. See people and it's like one of the cool things about this show. We did a junior ice team podcast or seminar upstairs at 3:00 today. We had 10 or 12 young kids from the age of 8 to 16, 17.
Nice.
And we asked them all kinds of questions. And we asked them one question in particular, the audience asked, what's your favorite thing about like being a junior pro or being here or part of the industry? And every single one of these kids said the camaraderie, the relationships, the friendships, the people.
That's awesome.
Everyone, it wasn't there's cool products.
Deals,
it was every single one of these kids are like, they're tapping each other as they're giving my friends here and the people and being a part of all this. And it's like, and that's one of the coolest things about this show. I mean, you can come here, you get a heck of a deal. You can buy your stuff, you can get ready for ice fishing. That's super important. And if you're listening, if you don't do those things, these shows don't exist. Newsflash.
Right,
So
yeah.
you need to come here and open up your pocketbook a little bit. Sorry, shameless plug, but the truth. But it's you see, it's like old home week. You get to see your friends that you don't always get to see.
Right.
I get to see customers that I only see once a year at the St. Paul Ice Show, and I remember them like, yeah, I saw you last year. So like, there's a lot to this industry, ice fishing industry, and the word that continues to ring home with some people is community, right? Like,
Oh, yeah.
it's like it is truly like a community, and it's
Very much.
It's not just the anglers here, but it's the brands, and everyone is always like, oh, this brand, that brand, Ford, Chevy, Dodge. There's going to be some of that, but you'll notice real quick if you spend any time in the industry, there's a lot of different colors on everyone's elbows because we're rubbing elbows with everybody.
It's one big family, man.
100%. That's
family
what I
reunion.
love the most about these shows is that right there.
Oh, yeah.
I spent 20 minutes talking to Tony Roach this morning, right?
Uh-huh.
I have zero business ties to Tony Roach.
Right.
One of the nicest guys you could probably sit and talk to.
I was
One of the more
talking to Tony this
knowledgeable
morning,
guys
too.
you could ever talk to.
Yeah.
Like, you take the opportunity to spend some. Bro, sat next to him at lunch a little bit yesterday. Same exact, right? So that's one of the cool things. And as listeners, my son has got someone's camera. That seems a little.
Not mine. We're
That's
good.
good. I was just going to say, Drew, that's
We're good,
expensive.
we're good.
But you come here too, and we talked about the show, the energy, the experience. You have to come to the show as a consumer and be willing to talk to people and ask questions.
Absolutely.
Like that to me, as much as the discount, the value of this show is the information and the people here that we're all here to talk back.
Right.
In a good way. So I mean, that's what I love coming about these shows. But
Chatting fishing, man.
Doesn't
Day
get
and
old.
night.
Yeah. See,
Day and night.
We're
and
dork.
anybody
We
you
said we're
stop
dorks.
here,
Yeah.
doesn't matter who it is, Jason Mitchell, Dave Gens, you pull up, and they genuinely just want to chat. Ice
Yeah.
fishing,
Yeah.
chat fishing.
Absolutely.
Everyone's got something in common
Yeah.
here.
So what's on your bucket list this winter for trips? You guys got any fishing? With destinations, we've been talking destinations the last few episodes of the podcast because ice fishing's here. Like, what's on your guys' radar for? You got anything up your sleeve that you're going to go chase?
We just got out of a meeting with some fellows about a Lake Winnipeg trip, and so that's looking really promising.
That one's got to be on the list every year.
Yeah.
Just,
Yeah.
you know,
And
Drew went hard in hiding
That
your
was
cargo.
that was my number one. Well, that would be. I don't want to. I have a passport, Matt.
Yeah.
I can do it the normal way.
Yeah.
And
Still.
I spent some time with the guys from Baker's again yesterday, and they're excited, and they got a new fly-in option that they want us.
fly in ice fishing.
Yeah,
That's coming.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Heard
Baker's
that.
was a magical place. I will be going back there.
Yeah.
Doing some of that backcountry walleye stuff. I mean, you hear about the lake trout deal, of course. I didn't know that they had these backcountry walleye lakes, and that was just a riot.
Is Mike Howe tied to that?
I'm not sure.
Because Mike Howe has something cooking up his sleeve too.
I don't know. I don't think that was the Baker. Well, it could be, I guess.
I
but
don't know.
think
I
it's
get them all mixed
There's
up.
a couple lakes in Canada. Who knows?
Yeah, there's 6 or 7.
Yeah.
I really want to do a Fort Peck thing again
Yeah.
too,
Yeah,
or
that'd be awesome.
head west, because there's some absolute gems out west that doesn't really get talked about. Even open water, Fort Peck, they're catching 100-pound limit of walleyes in 2 days, and they don't even post a picture because
Right.
there wasn't a big one caught. And it's like,
What's a big one?
Yeah.
Hey, there he is right there.
There he
He's
is,
trying to
maybe a
hide.
33-incher. But yeah,
What up, Sobe?
I'll battle rap right now.
Yeah, go. Okay, that's someone drop a beat for Sobe.
Yo,
going down, B-Rabbit.
yo, 2 gills I pop, till my pupils pop out like 2 pennies. I'm Drew Aspinwall in his mid-20s, a rambling man with
30,
a
bro.
honker in hand, balling around, trying to catch a gill, man.
Yes. Mic drop.
Mike dropped.
That
Yeah.
has to be.
All right,
pulled,
fair
that
enough.
Has to be pulled
We'll
out
cut
of
that one. That'll be the number one thing on the next email.
What a gem.
Yep, Brett's just like ammunition for the target walleye.
He just
spot.
makes me so happy.
Yeah, he does. He's
The
something
one,
else.
the one and only Sobe, everybody. Yeah, rolling in hot, literally
Yeah.
on the scene of the Ice Team podcast.
Bucket list stuff. I've actually never, for whatever reason, it's been on the agenda and actually on the calendar several times, many times over the years, is Devil's Lake. And
Same.
I have
Just talked about that.
I have a trip with my buddy Joel Vanderkroll, who's helping us out with some content. We're going up December 26th, the day after Christmas, and we're gonna be up there until New Year's Eve. I got to come back. It's our anniversary, my anniversary, and so we're gonna go
I
up there
saw
for
Jody
before-
yesterday.
Yeah, she's she comes and does a little tour. Blessed that she spends a little time here, and
Yeah.
she's actually scared to death of being out on the ice, but she's managed to do it a couple of times.
Yeah.
But
That's
nonetheless,
my
I'm
wife too.
gonna head up to Devil's Lake and give that a whirl for my first time. So I'm excited about that and checking that off the bucket list. And
Devils is sweet. Drew and I were talking about connecting with Mitchell and ripping out there this winter as well. I've done it a bunch of times, but Drew's hasn't been to Devils yet
Yeah.
either. It's a destination spot if you talk to Jason Mitchell, it's happening.
Yeah.
It's Devil's Lake is happening again. I mean, I think the word is kind of out, but it's happening again.
Yeah.
Devil's Lake is on, and I think the people that are heading out there this winter are going to see really good perch bite again. That's really bounced back. The walleye fishing's been good, and I think you're going to see Devil's Lake continue to be a destination trip for several more years, if not for ever. But
yeah, absolutely.
not surprised that's on your bucket list for sure. You've fished Devils before many times.
I fished there last year, and you hear about the jumbo perch all the time, which is fun, but fishing some of those shallow water walleyes, that was a riot. We're just in 4 feet, 5 feet of water. You could throw a snowball and hit shore. Little random boulders and rock spines and stumps and
Tree sticking up next to you.
yeah, you set the hook. You don't even have to reel. There's only 3 feet of line out, and they're aggressive. it's just a whole different world, and it's like 5 hours.
I watched that tour level gold video when they're fishing devils, and it's so wild. They're like dragging a big rig like right next to like shore, it seems like, and like, oh yep, he picked it up, give him time. I'm like, really? That's where you're fishing on devils? Like I could be on shore casting right there. It's like, yep, that's where they live.
Yeah. To see all those big fish too.
Yeah.
I mean, you hear about all the eaters and all the unders and stuff, but like you could stick those 27, 28 inchers too at the same time.
Yeah. Devil's a very unique fishery, and one thing Jason mentioned this morning, one of our Pro Step members, Darren Dorn, is planning a trip. He's the president of Disabled Anglers of Minnesota. Darren's in a wheelchair, and they're taking a dozen other disabled outdoorsmen and women up to Devil's Lake on these awesome trips with some snow bears.
Nice.
And why not? He's like, I should just talk to Jason Mitchell and have him give me the lowdown on what I need. And I'm like, I literally am talking to Darren. I go, Darren, you want to talk to Jason? He's like, sure. Jason's right. I go, hey, Jason, come over. And Darren's like, Jason walks up, literally gave him the keys of the kingdom. Wow. Here's what you need to do. Here's what you need to bring. Here's what you can expect. Here's what's going on. Here's what's happening, right?
Wow.
And just listening to him for a few minutes, I'm like, this is on like Donkey Kong.
Right.
Yes.
And you can see Darren's eyes just get bigger, like, this is going to be an epic trip. And Jason's like, don't settle for this and don't settle for that. And he's so right. He's so spot on. But yeah, devils, I think you're going to see some pretty cool stuff. You're going to talk about devils on Target Walleye, I bet you, a whole bunch this winter.
Already.
I can already tell you it's going to happen.
They're already catching the snot out of them over there. They got ice a little bit quicker than we did around here.
I've shared multiple JMO posts. I mean, they've been hitting them pretty good out there. So.
Yeah, and you're gonna have probably a Chris post shortly after the first of the year of some awesome Devil's Lake walleyes.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, 29 incher, 28 incher.
You can do it, Chris.
Yes,
I want to see some big old tiger stripes too.
Get psycho.
Right.
Get psycho.
Yes, gonna go psycho for sure. Wear my shirt and you see me dancing around.
I almost wore the same shirt today. That would have been awkward. If
that would have been.
That would have been cute. It would have been cute.
I thought it was on under my phone for a second.
We wore the same shirt.
Yeah, imagine that.
The Blue Army. I mean, destination stuff. We had a little tidbit last. I'm going to do a trip up to Lake of the Woods.
Nice.
Chase some walleyes, chase some saugers. I told you already, I'm not a walleye guy.
Yeah.
That's a layup. I'm going to take the layup, try not to miss.
Right.
But we're going to go up there, take the kids, probably do a couple nights in the sleeper, one night on land. I'm excited for that. It's just fun.
Yeah,
That's one of those, like, everyone's good at walleye fishing trips. But I don't want to under or overplay it. But you just go up there. It's a great place, in my opinion, to take a squad of people that maybe aren't as apt to catching fish.
Yeah.
We're at Devil's Lake. I think you want to have a little bit of fishing prowess to go there because you may have to move a little more than you want to stay on top of the fish. With a little effort, there could be a big reward.
Right.
We're Lake of the Woods, like, no, dude, I'm not even going to bring an auger.
Yeah.
I'm serious. I might not even bring a pair of bibs.
Yep.
I'm going to roll up there with a flasher and a bag of rods and some
Crocs.
baits. And they're Crocs, and they're even going to supply the minnows.
Oh, yeah. It's the way to do it. It's a lot of fun.
I want to put more effort into fishing smaller lakes this year for walleye.
Yeah.
Like lakes that I would have been intimidated to fish because it's probably like a prime time, like you got to be on the spot type thing before I had forward-facing sonar.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times, like open water, I've learned this summer, like I can catch walleyes in a lot of places that I never thought I would have been able to catch them before. And I want to do it ice fishing.
Yeah,
I think
absolutely.
they're in the lake. They're literally in the lake. You just have to put in the effort to find them.
We were talking about this a little bit, and speaking of like new products and stuff, have you guys played around with the Onyx Fish app?
Oh, yeah. I love that thing.
Unbelievable. Just like you were saying, little lakes that you didn't know had walleyes or
Well,
whatever. Oh my goodness, does that thing open up some doors?
Yeah.
I've had Onyx hunt for like 4 years, just religiously, and I've always been a huge nerd of Lake Finder and Rec Compass.
Yes.
And this, like, from what I understand, just combines both of them into
Puts
one
it all
easy
in.
platform.
You're probably young enough you didn't have to do the Platt book style stuff.
Oh, I have those stuff. What? Oh my God! When my parents were looking to buy a cabin back in the day, I had all the lakes printed off, like the full report survey, and it always had to be like whichever ones had the best walleyes. And they ended up buying a cabin in a general area. It wasn't one on a great walleye lake, but I remember. I think I still have all the printed off documents at the cabin. It's hilarious.
You're very analytical.
Oh yeah.
Like, I know when Drew and I ever talk about a fishing trip, I'm fairly barbaric. Like, I feel like I can muscle my way through some of this. Drew and Matt Waldron. like I look at like the Chronicles, right? Like Waldo, there's so much brains behind what he brings to the equation that people don't even comprehend.
Yep.
He's looking at topo maps and this and that, and where did the weeds grow and where do they end up in the fall? And you do that same. You're always like, right away, Drew's like pulling up satellite imaging from like 3 months ago, and like, dude, look at that weed bed
3
there.
days
I'm like,
ago.
I don't know what
Yeah,
weed
Google
bed?
Earth,
It's right there.
Modus,
Look at that.
all
And-
that good
oh
stuff.
yeah, and it's like, but it's paid off.
It does work, yeah.
Like it's
Very well.
worked, you know.
Shallow water stuff.
But Onyx Fish, that's the stuff they're
Tools.
tapping into, right? They're not just tapping into pull up your GPS and look at a contour. No, it's tapping into all the other information that we go to 5 other places for to find.
Yeah, stuff that would take you, even once you got to the Lake Master and Rec Compass time, you can do that in 30 seconds now on the app. Because you can just set filters and you can be like, I want a trophy walleye lake within this area, and press a button and boom, all the lakes that had survey data of fish over 28 inches, highlight.
Yes.
And stuff that we would spend hours and hours and hours trying to search through old the lake finder data, and then trying to go back and search
Lake
again,
Finder.
and it's like, oh my gosh,
It's kind of a dangerous app.
It
It
is.
is. It really
In a
is.
good way. I mean, if you think about it, like I was looking at it the other day, West Metro Lakes, just kind of, I got on Tonka a lot in the summer, and I'm just kind of looking at stuff, familiarizing myself with the app. And I'm finding like little things and nuances that I'm like, man, I've been here for 20 some years fishing these bodies of water in this region. And I'm like, didn't know that. So then I'm like, no way. So then I'm like doing my own investigative research, messaging even some buddies I know that may have fished said lake X, Y, or Z. And they're like, dude, how did you know that? And I'm like, can't tell you.
Never mind.
Yeah, but that validates, right? That the information you're seeing on there, for the most part, is pretty darn accurate.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
And I'm excited to see what they bring down the pipeline. And I'm still learning that app.
Yeah.
But from what I've seen, it's
good technology.
Yes.
It ultimately leads people to catching more fish,
Exactly.
which is good for everything, which is why I like forward-facing sonar. I know
Yeah.
people have their
Oh, yeah.
opinions, but I have fun with it. My cousins have fun with it. Everyone catches more fish with it, and it's just good for everything. As long as you don't
so
abuse
much.
it, right?
Well, and that's to be said in just your own, common sense and etiquette is what that boils down to. But the app itself, I think, will help a lot of people, spread out, because we're not all going to the known honey
big
hole.
water,
We're not
yeah.
all jumping on Mille Lacs or whatever. Let's get away from the crowds. Where are some other spots I can get into and not be completely lost? So that's the technology behind it that'll actually, I think, spread people out and help the fishery. And one thing, because I deal with a lot of the social media comments and everything, and a lot of people's hang-up so far is that it's great for Apple users, no Android. I met with Joel today, and just so everybody knows, it's coming. They're just working through some final
bugs.
testing, but it's coming on Android, so everybody relax. It's gonna happen.
well, I mean, that app soft launched
Yeah.
this month.
yeah,
Like
exactly.
it's not. I mean, that app is being like, it's going to, if you, like you alluded to, look at Onyx Hunt.
Yes.
It's
it's a
the
staple.
best app in its category by far. It's the same people.
Oh yeah.
So just calm down. Everyone,
scary in a
we
really
live
good way.
we live in an instant gratification world. We do. We want it now.
Oh,
and
yeah.
that's how we are wired as anglers. Like now, you're gonna go bass fishing. You're gonna go walleye fishing. You go to the first spot, they don't bite. You're like, what the heck?
Right.
No, I need to catch them now.
Yeah.
So I'm not surprised that that's the reaction.
Yeah.
But we also know, being in the industry and how things work, like just pump the brakes.
Right.
And
Yeah.
it's going to continue to get exponentially better with more features, advancements. So I know that's coming.
And to push the envelope with that, I mean, if you know anything about Joel Nelson and why they brought him on, I mean, if you look at him outside of the fishing industry, his entire background is mapping and GPS work. And I mean, he was at the the University of Minnesota forever. You had to do something pretty special to drag him away from that, and they did, and it got him excited, and he's really spearheading a lot of that, and kudos to him, and kudos to them for really getting a lot of real experts involved with coming up with this app that's going to be a game changer.
Yeah. I've known Joel for more than half my life. He doesn't lose at much.
No, right.
Joel Nelson wins at a lot of things he touches, so that's pretty cool. No, new technology, that's awesome. New stuff, new gadgets. One of the cool thing about shows that I like is it gives all the little brands a chance to play, right?
Yeah.
You have all these 10x10 Mon Shaw custom rod shops, lure shops, trinket shops, things that are trying to make fishing better and educational. I mean, you walk around this show and you see a lot of stuff you won't see at like a general retail store.
You want to know what you're going to see walking around this show that you've never seen before?
What's that?
Greg Wallner walking around in a blue jersey.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's
yes.
Oh my goodness.
He'll be on one of these podcasts. soon.
Yeah, I'm sure he will.
I already embarrassed him yesterday at the beginning of our opening day speech. But Greg joined the team literally this last week.
Yes.
Legendary status with Northland, with Rapala. Loves to fish.
Oh my gosh.
I'm excited about him joining the team for a multitude of reasons, but a big one is he loves to fish.
Yes.
And
Yes.
he gets it, and he understands
that.
it, and he's passionate about it. Loves the sport of fishing, and I think that's such a vitally important trait, I think, to work in the fishing business. Now, excuse me, I'm not going to take anything away from certain categories of a company, right? Like there might be, no disrespect, accountants, right? Or finance team. They may could care less about fishing, right? That's not a big deal. Not upset. But like in his role, leadership role, like you need to love it.
Oh, absolutely.
Seriously.
Yeah.
And it's evident the brands that have success, they love the sport.
Definitely.
They don't turn it off when the light on their office wall turns off, right?
Oh, yeah.
And I think Greg is absolutely one of those guys. Just the little bit I've gotten to know him and research him, like the dude loves to fish. Like we were talking about collecting content like next week, Drew and I. And right away, Greg's like, I'll tag along.
Let's go.
We got some pretty cool crappies happening in Wisconsin right now. You need another guy to go with?
That's awesome.
Sure, like come on along. So like I think that stuff's pretty darn
He's
cool.
one of us.
Yeah.
What was pretty funny about Greg this morning is that I was already in the Northland booth talking with Bro and Craig and a few of the guys and Charlie, and all of a sudden Greg rolls up at the Northland booth in his brand new, they spelled your name right. Well, they didn't originally, and we're going through all this stuff, and he goes, I got to tell you something. Dave pulls out all the stops, and after the show last night, we had a party. They closed down the whole place, and he was just going on, and it was just like, talking to the Northland guys. Sorry, I never did that kind of thing.
Yeah. Well, that's what we do. I mean, one of the things I love about Clam, one of the many things is obviously my role here is to work with pro staff, right? It is a family feel. And I think if you ask Greg right now, he's already felt that, right? Like he already sees it. Like at first it's intimidating when you come onto the scene and like, man, there's a lot of dudes and gals in blue shirts and what's this and what's that. Well, you learn real quick that there's a pretty metaphorical and literal arm hold around you, hugging you the second you're even remotely close to this family. And I think that's one of the things we really pride ourselves on is the sea of blue. We hear it all, the Blue Army, Smurfs, whatever, say whatever you want. But it truly is that. I mean, and listening to those kids today on that stage go, I feel like I'm a part of something here. I'm here. My favorite value is the friendships, the people, the relationships. Like
That is so cool.
Even at that age, they realize real quick
It's beyond
this.
just
This
fishing.
yes,
No
people
standing.
over things, and that's just what we try to do.
Absolutely.
What it's all about, man.
And before I forget, and I did forget the name, and I'm sure you guys know. Thane actually introduced me to it and invited me. There's
Oh boy, this could be a lot of things.
a trip in South Dakota that helps take out underprivileged.
Craig Euler, hooked on hard water.
Hooked on hard water.
We've done podcasts with Craig.
I was invited to that, and I'm so jacked
Yes.
up about going out there. And I've been meaning to talk to Brett about if we can make that work too. But I have a huge heart for giving back and fishing for men. I tell people all the time, my job, my job is in the fishing industry, catching fish. My career is fishing for men, and if we can go out and take some of these kids, whether, in a bad situation, underprivileged, whatever the situation is, and introduce them to a different medium and bless them like that, it just is just a wonderful thing to do. It's a lot more than the fishing. It's about building relationships and building the kingdom. So
and Craig's dad
amazing.
is like legendary.
Yeah.
Like if you really, really, really got to know who Craig's dad, Craig Euler,
Yes.
and what he's done for that community, it would astound you. Like there could be a book written on.
Yeah, I've heard about it.
His dad. So, and you'll learn about that when you head out there. It's a wonderful event. Hooked on Hard Water. Craig's pulled it off. It's on Rapid City area of South Dakota. They take these boys fishing from the boys club and teach them about all kinds of great things that life has to offer. They play games. It's a really cool experience. I've had many, many guys come back and say that grown, gnarly, burly, tough men in tears.
Yeah, absolutely.
At this event. So I'm excited for you to go to that and hear what you say.
Life-changing stuff on both sides.
Oh, my
Yeah,
gosh.
absolutely.
Yeah. I did just get a text literally right now from my buddy. Not going to mention the lake. It's up in Chisago County. Went to said lake, 5-6 inches of ice, hammered the crappies and gills. If you just texted me that, and I know you're listening, stop it.
Jealous.
Right? Frickin' now. But,
This is a bad winter to pull jury duty, boys.
yeah.
I
When
did
are you at
too.
jury duty again?
Yeah, in January. It's
Oh,
terrible.
my gosh.
I know.
Yuck.
I'm December 19th.
No way.
I got to get out of it. I got fishing
Over
fishing
Christmas?
today.
That stinks.
Oh,
I already got out of jury
man.
duty once because I got married.
Yeah.
So Sarah
Yeah.
made
Do you
me do
need
that
me
one,
to
obviously.
convince someone you're insane?
Yeah, I think I can.
I mean,
do
I
that.
could make a
Tell
call.
my
You
ice
need-
fish.
Yeah. You know, this is the Brett McComas from Target Walleye. Oh, we can't have him. Cut him loose. Cut him. Cut him loose.
He's got better stuff to do.
Yes.
Well, gentlemen, what, hour and 11 minutes we've been
Yeah.
talking. We could probably talk forever. I know you guys got to get back after it. I am so proud that today at, what time is it? 6:05 on December 7th, I can formally say we corralled Target Walleye for an Ice Team podcast.
Which one of these is? There we go.
Yes, I am going to go suck my thumb and sleep in the ice camping scene now. So,
I take bottom bunk.
yes.
Oh no, you guys! Thank
Yes.
you for
Yeah.
putting up with us. I mean,
Yeah.
like I said, I listen all the time, and I'm just pumped that
Thank you.
the schedule's lined up, and I could chat 8 hours with you fellas.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
absolutely.
Let's
Easy.
do it on the ice next
That's
time.
a good
Yes.
idea.
Absolutely.
On the ice.
Love to.
Well, thank you so much, Brett and Chris. Again, if you haven't checked out Target Walleye, first get out from the rock and then log in and make sure you subscribe. They got a lot of stuff cooking. Get their multiple weekly email blasts, a lot cooking on there. Otherwise, if you are at another show, there's another week. This is going to probably air this next week.
Tuesday.
So
hopefully.
when you're listening to this coming weekend, there's going to be an ice fishing show in Oshkosh, Wisconsin. There's also one in Duluth. There's retail events still going on. There's lots of opportunities still to save and get ready for ice fishing. And if you're out there fishing, all I say right now is, don't tell me, and be safe.
Yes.
Be
Yes.
safe.
Bring a
Catch
buddy,
some fish.
bring a
Have
spud
some
bar.
fun. And I'll live vicariously through you on social media right now. So thanks, guys.
Thank
Really
you, fellas.
appreciate it.
Thank
Pleasure.
you.
Thank you.
Another episode of the Ice Team Podcast coming at you from the St. Paul Ice Fishing and Winter Sports Show. We'll catch you next time. Thanks.
Boom.
All right.